I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
I can't cross the street because every time I try pressing the crosswalk button, it just makes this weird noise. Look.
Bang.
Do you remember?
I can't cross the street because
You guys should try Rizona iGame Maker. It's have all sort of game, from text simulator.
If you've ever thought about exploring an abandoned school, just know it is not safe. Because I made the biggest mistake of my life a couple months ago when some friends and I decided to explore an abandoned school on a road trip. But what started as just curiosity turned into one of the most terrifying nights of my life after we heard a noise that seemed innocent but would later prove to not be. So let's start from the beginning. What would you do if you saw a massive creepy building in the middle of nowhere during a road trip? Because that's exactly what me and my friends saw when we were driving from Los Angeles to Vegas. We were in the middle of a long road trip and bored out of our minds from how long the drive was when suddenly my friend who was driving slams on the brake and goes, "What is that?" So we all look to where he's pointing and see an absolute massive abandoned building in the middle of nowhere. So of course, it sparked our curiosity right away. Considering the fact that we still had a couple hours before getting to our destination, we thought this was a good place to stop and stretch our legs. So we all agreed we should go check it out. But we had no idea how much further we would go than just checking it out. Because at first, none of us knew what it was. We all had our guesses. One of my friends thought it was an old shopping mall. One of them thought it was an old abandoned government building. Because this place looked like a Spirit Halloween when it's not October. There could have been a sign on the outside of it that said free candy inside, and I would have been like, yeah, that sounds about right. And my big back still would have fell for it too. So none of us had any idea what we were looking at. But the closer we got to it, the more intriguing it became. Because there were vines growing up the side of the building, making it look like it hasn't been touched in years. So all signs pointed to this place being abandoned. Spoiler alert, it was not. Because as we got out of the car to walk up to this place, we finally figured out what it was. Through one of the dirty windows, we could see rows of desks and a chalkboard. Oh my gosh. It's an abandoned school. And something about seeing a place like this, where you know kids used to go to school inside there, and now it being completely empty, felt really off. And that feeling would only get stronger as time went on. By the way, if you see me sweating, it's because I filmed these videos in my closet, and it's so hot today. But whatever, time to lock in again. So we spent about 10 minutes walking around the outside of the building, looking through each window. We could see empty classrooms with desks still arranged in a neat order. There was a hallway with lockers lining the walls, some of them still open. And then in what looked like a cafeteria, there were tables and chairs scattered all around. It was really strange because this place almost felt as if all the students just got up one day, left, and never came back. This was the first thing that didn't make sense, because why would a school just shut down without anything being done to it? And also, we were kind of in the middle of nowhere. So why would there be a school in this location at all? There were a lot of questions we had, but the answer to all these was not what we expected. Because the whole time we're walking around the outside, my gut is telling me that something's just off about this place. But all my friends wanted to go inside. And if there's one thing about me, if my friends are down to do something, I'm down to do it too. Like if you asked if I wanted to go skydiving into a volcano, I would say absolutely not. But the moment my friend goes, hey, we're going skydiving into a volcano tomorrow, want to come? I'm there. I'm down for anything. So now that we decided we wanted to check out this place, it was time to find a way inside. And that was pretty easy, because as we were walking around, we noticed a place where a door was supposed to be was just completely missing. Kind of weird if you ask me, right? But at the time, I just rolled with it. When we first stepped inside, I remember thinking that this would just be a quick look around. We'd check out a few rooms, take some pictures thinking that we'd gain so much aura from them, when in reality, we just looked chopped, and then get back on the road. But unfortunately, I was wrong. It started out normal going inside. It was anything you would expect from an abandoned building. But you know that feeling when you realize you might have made a huge mistake? That's exactly what hit me about 15 minutes after we walked into this abandoned school. Because we were checking out what seemed to be the main office when suddenly I heard it, a beeping sound. Not loud, but definitely electronic. It almost sounded like when your smoke detector battery is dying, but it was more consistent. So I stopped what I was doing and listened. Hey guys, do you hear that? They all went quiet, and now everyone could hear it. Beep, beep, beep. Now, I knew it was real. The sound was really strange because it echoed off all the empty walls and made it impossible to find out where it was coming from. We tried walking in different directions to see if it got louder or softer, but it seemed to be the same volume no matter where we went. It was almost like the sound was bouncing around the whole building. And this is when our whole vibe started to change. We went from being excited to explore this new place to now being confused and a little bit worried. None of us had a good answer for what this sound could have been. One of my friends thought it could have possibly been a security camera noise. And if you guys remember the abandoned mansion video, trust me, we did not want to run into any security. But that theory went out the window after something else happened. And this is where it got really weird. The beeping went on for around a minute, super consistently. But then it just stopped. Complete silence. We all looked at each other like, okay, that was strange, but maybe it's over now. So we kept exploring. We checked out the gymnasium, which was huge and still had basketball hoops hanging from the ceiling. But then about 5 minutes later, the beeping started again. But this time, it only lasted for a few seconds before stopping. That's when we all started to get genuinely spooked. The pattern made no sense. Why would it start beeping for a minute, then stop, then suddenly start again for 5 seconds? We tried to convince ourselves it maybe was just old building systems. Maybe there was a backup generator that was working somewhere. Or it really could have been a smoke detector. But none of these explanations felt right. The timing was too random. The worst part was not knowing what we were dealing with. If it was just old building systems, then fine. We could ignore it and keep exploring. But if someone else was actually in there with us, we needed to know who and where they were. After the third time the beeping happened, we needed to make a decision. We could either leave and always wonder what that beeping sound was, or we could go to the source